Welcome to Daily Cyber episode number 288. Today's going to be an exciting episode. Once again, we have a great guest going on. I wanted to say hopefully everyone is safe. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now with the power outages, the economics, things that are going on in Iran. So I just want to hope everyone is safe and, everyone's, doing well. That's why, I really do this Daily Cyber Security is to help people in business and cybersecurity and deal with instant response, really to take the next steps to really be secure. So it's interesting. The guest that I have on today is an expert in this area, has a wealth of knowledge. We've been talking a couple of times and before the stream and just really diving into deep topics. So I'm really excited to have him as a guest and really dive deep. So Ryan is a dependable and highly trained security expert, leveraging 20 years of experience in civil as well as government sector internationally, providing full spectrum security services and intelligence analytics for diverse clients base all across the world from what I've been hearing. Ryan has a well-versed ability to identify, mitigate security risks to maximize the protection of human capital or assets with organization specializing in high threat areas. Now, I know I've been talking to Ryan. He's got a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to learn a lot today through this stream. So grab a coffee, grab a tea, and let's hack at it. Welcome, Ryan. How you doing?
Brandon, how you doing? I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. I mean, I'm sure as we were talking about, you're dealing with a lot right now, as everyone is. How's the week been for you? Been pretty busy?
Yeah, busy is an understatement. It's a good type of busy, and thankfully we're able to help our clients make sense of what's going on and just solve the problems that come up.
Now, just to let you know, we have a chat, just you and I, just below. Just to send you just a quick message. So now, one of the things I'm really excited to get into deep with you is because I know you have an expert background, like in all different areas of cybersecurity and what's going on. Given the advancement of technology, and I mean, you've seen the changes over the last 5 to 10 years. Do you think like businesses and owners really make changes current to the security posture that they need to do in today's technology?
Do I think they make the changes? I think that the shifts are slow, if at all. Like with any, and it depends on the scale of the operation, right? Right. Something like a government, a large-scale corporation typically is a slower machine to move, even with dedicated cyber or physical security sections, for lack of a better term. I do think that there has to be a shift. What I have found from my discussions over the past, we'll call it 12 months, and it's important to note that with the, supercharging of efforts with the use of AI, 12 months now is the equivalent of 10 years technologically in terms of advancements, of yesteryear. So if you think about it, think about technology 5 years ago versus today. It's not even close to the same. It's just grown at a parabolic rate. So I think the threat model has fundamentally changed. And that is because the threats have shifted from opportunistic to more of a targeted and intelligence-driven apparatus. So they're not just, hoping to stumble upon something. They're doing their homework. And the vast majority of these breaches involve a human element. So they're not even attacking technology anymore. I mean, they are, but I'd say more often than not, they're attacking the person. So instead of hacking the computer, they're hacking the person through social engineering. And that is supercharged by AI and the digital threads that connect us to social media and other open source intelligence vectors.
Well, I think to your point, I think, it's easier to do social engineer someone as well with our technology. So it's kind of that ebbs and flows of one's taking over the other. And I think because like, and I think everyone watching this knows, we're so connected. Your information's out there. And then we talked about the on offline is that your bank account, your business, your email, your social sites are all connected. Calendar are all connected in some way, that there's some sort of data of information portfolio that if I was doing a reconnaissance on, John Smith, I could do it and find information, just open source intelligence, just by that alone, to get a baseline of where I'm starting from. Where do they work from LinkedIn? How long they've been there? What's their job? Who's other their connections? Maybe I see them on TikTok or Facebook or something like that. I can kind of look at their social circles, what they do for activities, and you get all this information. Now, like you said, then we can use technologies, texting, email, things along that line to actually connect with them. But I think even social media, like I've seen this, someone was talking to me today about LinkedIn, how they're getting messages from LinkedIn from a false recruiter.
I just got one today, actually.
There you go, right?
And then I did a reverse Google image search of the, it was an attractive woman, and it just didn't fit, right? None of the information really fit. And you can kind of parse that out if you have an eye for it. But with AI, again, it is supercharged. You can ask AI to design you a LinkedIn profile that would mimic that of a Columbia graduate, 26 years of age with a background in these three companies. It'll create a very realistic, very realistic profile for you. And this is not unlike, target packages we would do, in special operations, or when we're offensively looking at someone. We would do a full OSINT dive, and that would kind of go into our packet, which would have other sources of intelligence kind of plugged in there, and really just develop a plan from there. So they're not rewriting the book. They're just using it effectively, and it's very cheap to do so.
Well, I think the challenge that is too is that you've got both sides of the fence. You've got people doing it because they want to market, they want to have a better image, they want to do all that. Like, they're doing all that great stuff. So you kind of go, okay, great. Like, they're getting a better background, they're getting their little headshot, and they're improving the background of that, making it more visual. It's cleaning up the picture. Maybe they didn't have a good headshot picture, but now it looks really good. Yep. So you see that side. But like you said, then there's the other side, the catfishing you with someone's profile or different information, right? So I think you have to go through the balance of doing your due diligence.
Well, we're always, and I'm quoting a buddy of mine. So a very good friend of mine owns a company, Arcadia Cognerati, and what they do is they specialize in what is called human behavior, pattern recognition, and analysis. It's a mouthful, but it is a very, very advanced system that it basically is the same from Boston to Budapest. Human beings are always on transmit, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. However, in a place like LinkedIn, in an ecosystem like LinkedIn, everybody is kind of trying to one up the person next to them. Pick me, no pick me, no pick me. So they're adding more and more information. For instance, I saw a profile yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I actually sent it to a buddy of mine because I couldn't believe it. I'm going to sanitize it as much as possible. It was an individual who works in law enforcement, but they were also prior military. And in their headline, they listed, of course, they're an expert at everything, right? Everybody's an expert at everything on LinkedIn. So the word has lost its meaning. But I digress. It also said that this individual had a top secret security clearance right in their headline. So now when because make no mistake, every country with collectors, which is everyone on the planet, even the major players, they are on LinkedIn, and they are trying to collect, and they are trying to collect from people where the information would be valuable. So if you say, hey, I'm John Smith and I work in this sector, and by the way, I have a top secret security clearance, and it even said full scope. It even said the words full scope, meaning he went through the full polygraph and things like that. It just designates that it's a higher clearance. And that was listed on this person's public LinkedIn, which is just terrible. And nobody, and here's the other thing. Let's go down a layer deeper. None of his friends, none of his coworkers, nobody said, hey dude, maybe you should think about changing that because it's an informational security issue.
Right.
Nobody said anything.
Well, that's what I would assume, right? Like, my hypothesis would be someone in his, even at work, would say, we have to review your social sites to make sure there's no content or anything, and say, hold on, that's a flag. Like, you got to take that down. Like, I know for myself, I don't know about you. Like, I know you own your company, but I used to work for companies in the last, say, 10 years. They would do that. They would actually go through and scrape all my social sites to say, okay, yeah, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't say this about this. Here's the write-up you need to have. Put that out there. We've approved that by legal. right? And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That's, you know what? That's very uncommon, at least this side, this side of the house. I rarely hear companies doing that. And it is a zero cost. It costs $0 to do that. And
right.
the amount of information that we leak it's extraordinary. I recently, my concept of time is a bit askew. It's been busy, but there was a course I did for a baseball team, specifically the wives, and
Right.
they were concerned about their awareness and being in new cities every week. So they asked me to come do what would equate to a situational awareness course.
Mhm.
Now, to prep for that course, nobody likes sitting in PowerPoint classes. I don't, you don't, nobody does.
No.
So I have to find a way to make it sticky, right? Create a memory emotion link. I have to do that quick so then I can build that rapport and you're going to listen and hang on to every point that I make. So what I did was I created a sock puppet account, something that I knew that the wives would accept, right? So I think it was an attractive young woman who owned a boutique jewelry store. And I completely fabricated this. This was completely fabricated. And they all accepted my follow request. So now what I was doing was I was scraping intelligence from their social media.
Right.
Some were buttoned up, but most weren't. And when I went to the class, I had created profiles on every single one of them. And I think all but one, I had their address from their social media. I mean, and it may have taken me a few different posts. It could have been the reflection of the house in one picture or a fraction of a license plate in one. Or something to that effect. But that's what these adversaries are doing. And that's why I'm telling this story. It's not to pat myself on the back. It's to show you that it is very simple to use social media, which to you or to the layperson may be, hey, I'm just trying to keep my family updated on what I'm doing. Or, hey, I got a great life. I want to show people. That's fine. Make it private. And even if you make it private, you have actors like myself who I am formally trained offensively as a covert entry guy. So I'm trained to kind of get information that would be useful for my mission and use it to exploit security vulnerabilities. But the bad guys are doing it too. And with AI, you're not smarter than the robot. It is just going to sift through all of that information and find patterns that even a human wouldn't be able to identify. So, that connectivity that you mentioned earlier, everything's connected and synced, and it creates a pattern of life, a digital pattern of life that I can then follow and look for exploitation vectors and then exploit it or potentially harm you, which would be look back at the United Healthcare CEO assassination, Brian Thompson. That wasn't a random act of violence. He was targeted and his pattern of life was laid out in front of him because they went to the same conference at the same place every year. So he was tracked digitally.
Right. Oh, 100%. And I mean, something that a lot of people don't know too is, and I mean, you can put your 2 cents in here, is even if you block or make your social media private, I'm going to use Facebook example. If one of your friends gets compromised, now they're no longer private, right? If they get hacked, compromised, their password gets compromised, they get into that account, right? Then all of a sudden they're starting to see your posts, or if they like your friend and your friend is commenting and doing resharing your posts, then they see it on their feed. So, I mean, it's a layered approach. And a lot of times people don't think that deep. They only think first layer. Oh, I've got it private. It's locked. Only my friends and family members and coworkers and colleagues and people I went to high school with and junior school and kindergarten with all have access. And you're like, okay, did you notice how you expanded that network from your immediate people that family and friends, to colleagues, network, your school, people you went to kindergarten 20 years ago? Like, it's expanded.
Yeah. And we always go 3 people removed. So, you go layers deeper, and that's exactly right. And that we're also seeing that in the business sector. And even with very high profile companies, there's been a few very high profile financial firms that have been hit recently with major breaches. And these are going to be the brand and reputational damage. That fallout's going to be going on for months. If they're publicly traded, you're going to see it in the share prices. But also investor confidence. How many people are going to say, you know what, I may go to this firm because they take cybersecurity and information security a little more serious. But what they are doing is, and this is to elaborate on your point, where they're going to your friends and family that might not be as secure, or maybe they're just an easier target. They're going after the vendors. So
Right.
instead of going, let's say I wanted to gain access, and financial services is a top 3 target, just risk
Right.
versus reward, right? Well, they spend, or some spend, a decent amount of money on their cyber infrastructure. There are many small to medium sized independent wealth firms who really need to take a look at what they have going on and look at evolving their current posture, because the security of yesteryear is not effective anymore. You have harvest now, decrypt later that's going on. So you got post quantum things you have to think about, post quantum resilience, data harvesting, things like that. But let's say they don't want to target the financial advisory firm. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to target, I don't know, their vendor for marketing, or they're going to target their vendor for enter service, and that's it. And that's who they're going to target and try and ride that wave into, and potentially just change something as simple as direct deposit information. And it'll take you months to figure out that happened, because you'll just notice that payments didn't come through, and you'll give them some grace. And all of a sudden, hey, you're 2 payments late. Oh no, I paid you both months. Well, guess what? That money's offshore somewhere. And I've seen that happen. That's not I didn't make that up. That's happened many times.
Well, I've dealt with customers that have that, where the ACH transfer kind of compromise, where, like you said, third-party downstream liability is real. From my perspective, I see it from MSPs or MSPs, right? MSSPs, managed security service providers, or MSPs, managed service providers, which is generally IT. I see on that side where they know they manage 100, 1,000 customers. So if they get into their network and they have their remote service and their tools and all that into these customers, so now they have one point of access to 100 to 1,000 customers that they can now move laterally to. The other one, like you said, was the ACH transfer, where they're like, hey, I've changed my bank account information. I'm from company ABC. I've changed my bank account information. I know I have automatic deposit or transfers and all that going on. I need to update my account because my bank did blah, 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 and I can't do it anymore. So here, can you do that? They do it. Like you said, the vendor calls 3 months later going, hey, you're in arrears. And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're arrears? We paid you. And, and sure enough,
look at these AI deepfakes now. All they need, and it goes right back. Let's go back to social media again. If there's a 30-second clip of you talking into the camera, you can use AI now to deepfake what would be the equivalent of a FaceTime, right? So they could and this actually, you know what? Here's a story that hits close to home. I was talking with my father. My father is 69 years old. So let's just say he's not going to be coding any new apps anytime soon.
Right.
He's a retired Army guy. Technology and him aren't best friends, right? He types with one finger, and he's retired. So he's, you're not going to get much out of him. But I was speaking with him, and he just casually mentions, oh yeah, the other day I was sitting here and my phone rang and it was a FaceTime from my wife. I said, oh, okay. Did you not answer it because you didn't want to talk to her? He goes, no, she was sitting right next to me. I go, oh, okay.
Right.
We're going to have to get you locked down here. There was a data breach, and your number was there. And what they did was they did a very quick search. They found out who, it was probably already out there within the data breach, either your emergency contact or whatever, next of kin. And they got her information. The numbers are all out there. Our information is everywhere. That's what people need. If you could take one thing from this podcast, your information is everywhere.
Right.
It's the most valuable currency on the planet. If you give me $1, I can only buy something for $1, and now it's gone.
Right.
You give me a terabyte of data, the amount of money I can make from that is endless. I can do targeted marketing. I could do, if I'm a criminal, I can do exploitation efforts, right? So data is the most valuable currency on the planet time now, and it could be used in perpetuity. And once it's out forever. And let's not even get into the dark web, which is absolutely terrifying.
Right.
I've seen clients full social security numbers for sale on the dark web, which at that point, I just have to have them lock their credit down. Can you get it off? I go, no, not off the dark web. It's backed up 10 times, probably on 10 other forums that I haven't looked at yet.
Oh,
so,
100%.
it hit close to home, because I'm like, man, my dad wouldn't know that. He wouldn't be able to tell if it was a decent deep fake. He would just wire money.
Right.
Hopefully he'd call me, and I had to tell him, hey, Dad, before you move any money anywhere, nobody's calling you asking for money.
Right.
Don't send money to anybody, not me, nobody. don't send money to anybody is basically what I told him. And not only that, just I got him on endpoint protection and on a VPN and everything else. I'm like, here's a whole bundle. That was interesting walking him through that process, but we got him set up.
I've had the same thing, and I've like with my mom, and I told her, like, if anyone calls you and asks you for information, hang up and call me back. If it's information, access to your computer, hang up and call me, and then I'll walk you through what's next steps. And she goes, okay, well, it's a good thing you're telling me that because I had an incident. I'm like, okay, here we go. What happened? And she goes, well, Rogers called me and they need access to my computer. I'm like, so you're not with Rogers, are you? She's like, no, I'm with Bell. I'm like, so why is Rogers calling you to get access to your computer? She goes, I thought that, but I asked them a whole bunch of questions. I'm like, Mom, just hang up. Like, they could be recording, taking information. They're trying to get you to just keep talking, whatever it may be. Just hang up and call me. Yeah. She's like, oh, but you're busy. And I'm like, I'm never busy for you to call me. I will jump off a call, just quickly answer your questions and make sure you're safe. I'd rather you do that than hearing that you lost money or they got access to your savings or retirement or anything along that line. Just because, as you know, and we've all heard, horror stories where they got to that one access point, like that, threat actor, and they got it and they got money. They got, they compromised that elderly person and now they're out 50, 20, 50, $100,000, and they're just down and out and they can't get it back. Now, what do they do? Right. So to me, 5-minute phone call, I'll do it time and time again. Keep, anyone, the elderly safe. I had a colleague. She was telling me about how an IT person called her and she was like, he's calling me, he's asking me these questions. I'm going back and forth through the support. And his name was Peter Parker. I'm like, that's a scam.
Is his uncle's name Ben?
She goes, well, no. How do you know it's a scam? I'm like, do you know who Peter Parker is? Well, no, I've never met him before. I don't know who he is. I'm like, that's the name of Spider-Man. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, okay, your homework is go to watch all the Marvel, all the Lord of the Rings, right, all the Harry Potter movies, and just take down their names. If any one of those people call you, right, it's a scam.
I'll talk to you in 9 months when you get done.
She's like, fair enough. And then she was funny enough. She was really nice. She sent me a Spider-Man watch as a joke. Like, thank you so much. But it's these things that you and I know is like, you got to have to educate. You have to be aware, right? And you have to take your time because I find in these situations, they try to get people in a fear state. They try to get them in the like fight or
urgency and trust.
100%, right? And then there's like, oh my God, I have to answer. I have to do this. You don't have to, right?
Well, that's how we're conditioned now. And that's something in my own life, I'm trying to slow my own life down because I'm just too connected to everything. I mean, I have my bat phone for work, but other than that, very few people have that number. My clients do. And that's an emergency line 24/7, 365. It goes to all of my, my directors if I don't answer it. But honestly, our lives are moving too fast, and that's what they are banking on.
Right.
My biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone at any level, because they're not just targeting people with a ton of green under the mattress. They're also targeting just regular, people who might have a little bit of savings because they work, their ass off for 30 years. They'll target anybody. Right. Mm-hmm. And what I tell everyone is take a deep breath, take 3 and think for a second. Does this make sense? Is there something in your mind saying something about this doesn't sound right? Because the human mind is inherently lazy, right? That's why we have what's called heuristics. We'll take pieces of information and kind of put together what we think is going on based on, logical next steps, go back in our file folder. But our mind will try and protect us by having us burn as few calories as possible. And that's exacerbated should you think about how your body functions, right? Calories turn to energy. Well, if you haven't eaten or drank enough water that day, your brain is operating in first gear. So you're not going to be as quick. So these things, even your health matters with these situations because you won't pick up on these anomalies that are showing themselves. If you see one anomaly, pay attention. If you see 2, you're getting close. If you see 3, which would be a cluster, or hear 3 or something to that effect, you got to do something. You absolutely have to. And with these AI deepfakes, even with major corporations, they think I'm going to have some product that I'm going to try and sell them for a ton of money. I say, no, you can have this one for free. 52 weeks out of the year, have AI generate 52 words. And before you do any transaction over X amount, that's your decision as Mr. CEO, COO, what have you. And before you authorize that transaction, you have to give that word. Right. So they're going high tech. Let's go low tech.
Right.
Keep that off the interwebs. Keep that off your company, your company drive, and just have it in a paper at your desk. Right. Pull it out, and if it's week 37, the word is penguin.
Right.
Authorized penguin. If you don't get that word, you don't transfer the money. Or go a step further. If you're, say, a wealth advisor, where you're going to move somebody's money, set up a word in your onboarding process when you're getting all their pedigree information, address, all that good stuff. Say, hey, listen, in the event that something, where I feel something is off, and this goes both ways, I'm going to ask you what color your car is, and make it not a color that his car actually is, because that digital recon might show them, hey, he drives a silver Mercedes. Mm-hmm. So if I say, hey, John, what color's your car? The answer isn't silver, because they could have that information. The answer is going to be electric blue. That's how you know it's actually John.
So I did one thing further than that. Mm-hmm. Go actually completely obscure from the actual answer. So if you're saying, hey, what color your car is, Fido.
It's Sunny.
It's Fido, and it's like a dog's name. So it's not 1-to-1. And don't have a dog named Fido. Don't make it completely obscure that no one would be able to kind of guess it, socially engineer, come close to. You said gray is your color, your car, but blue, you said blue is the color that you're going to say, but blue's your favorite color, and I can see it all through your social media.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
So throw something, moon star, right? Like your color of your car, moon star, like something that you wouldn't even guess, because I found for myself was people were getting social engineered because they were using terms like that were still familiar with them, that you could do some reconnaissance and find out something close. Favorite book, movie they just watched, something, and you're like, okay, it's close. I'm wondering, and you start kind of connecting the dots, right?
Yeah. No, and think about it. Think about what we just discussed in 45 seconds. That costs $0. Imagine how high that security now for just the identity verification, we'll call it. Yeah. Think about how high your posture just went up by something that costs $0.
100%, right?
It doesn't have to be expensive and technical. In fact, when things go high tech, I love going low tech. It's what I do in the field. If I'm operating, in other countries and I may not have access, or I don't want, I want to keep a low profile, you go low tech.
Right. And
that's the answer. And so have a hybrid system. Mm-hmm. Come up with a hybrid system where you're using high tech solutions, but it's less, like I said, it's more targeted and intelligence driven. So it's becoming less of a technology problem and more of a processes problem.
Right.
That's why they're targeting the individual, because getting past the technology is tough. Now they are designing tailor-made, exploits for what they know will be the most likely operating system. If you're trying to target, healthcare or financial services, they're not running Macs. They know that. They know what operating system you're using. Now, they may not know if it's E3, E5, what have you, but they're going to pick the tools for the job. Just like a handyman. If he's going to fix the pipes in your house, he's not going to come out with a jackhammer. He's going to pick the tool for the job, and hackers are doing the same thing. So that's also why your domain security, if your domain security is weak, a lot of people don't think about this. They go to GoDaddy, they start their small business, but they don't fix their security settings, their SPF, their DKIM, DNS, all those things, or DMARC. If they don't fix those settings, it leaves room, and then we can start to probe, get your actual IP address, because to this day, people still don't use VPNs. I'll never understand it. But if they can find your IP address, your real IP address, then they can start probing it. And if you don't have the correct security in place, it's going to tell them a lot of information that they can then go in their toolbox, their virtual toolbox, and say, hey, they're running Microsoft version whatever. They haven't updated it. So therefore, that patch that they put in that update hasn't been done. So here's the exploit we're going to use. We're going to use the DDoS attack. We're going to use a worm. We're going to use XYZ.
Well, the thing too is, depending on who's watching this, if you're executive to breaking into the industry, there's also public information that any vulnerability, as these companies are doing research, be it online information or dark web, they're saying how exploitable these critical high, medium, and low vulnerabilities are, right? Because now they're seeing online, like you're talking about, there's actually white papers on the threat actor side of, no, here's step by step of what to do.
Yep. Oh yeah. And they share it. Go if you really. So we spent a lot of time, kind of searching the dark web for our clients, because that is a huge, with all these data breaches. I got I think 4 last year. I have so many LifeLock subscriptions. I think I should own shares in the company at this point, because every time, and that's their damage control, right? When they have a data breach, somebody came up with, I'm sure it's somebody with a Juris Doctorate. They said, hey, if you offer this, you should be okay. Right. Now, I don't know how much longer that's going to cut it, because of the amount of damage and lawsuits, class action that are coming out of it. Because your information, depending on who you are, everybody's information should be held tightly. Mm-hmm. But the weaponization of that information, it's different for different people, depending on who you are, right? So somebody like myself, I may be at a higher risk for certain things based on the sector of work that I'm in or past work that I've done. I don't know. But it still is, your information is all you have. And once that's exploited, they'll just run up credit cards and everything else. And then you have to deal with the fallout, and good luck dealing with that. That's a nightmare.
Right. 100%. Now, going back to the original question, I want to kind of spin back there. We were talking about kind of the security and how things have changed. What are 3 recommendations you would give for business owners to start to implement to improve their security posture?
Well, really, I believe that endpoint protection is going to be the VPN 5 years from now. And what I mean by that is, there was a time when really only certain types of people used VPNs, and now they're pretty much mainstream. You can they're included in a lot of subscriptions, or if you want to go higher level, I use post-quantum resilient just because of the nature of the work that I'm in. But VPN is number one. I mean, your whole infrastructure should be using VPNs. At the very least, it'll do a little bit of obfuscation. Also, like I said, the endpoint, I think endpoint protection is going to become mainstream. Mm-hmm. We're just too connected, and post-COVID, everyone is kind of working from a hybrid work environment. And I would argue that most people are working on a hybrid, leaning towards more remote than in office. Mm-hmm. Very few companies are primarily in office. So endpoint protection is really, really important. And if you are using your home network for work, you have to have it configured correctly. And it's not just, I'll use Verizon as a for instance, you don't just take the router they give you, plug it in, and get ripping, right? You need to segregate, or the topography of what your network has to be compartmentalized, right? Your smart fridge doesn't need to be on the same network as your security cameras. If your kids are playing enter game here, it doesn't have to be on the same network that you're doing your work on. You should create separate networks for every high risk or high security kind of piece that you're doing from home. So really, it's the network architecture, it's endpoint protection on the devices. It's also would be a VPN, and I'll throw in a fourth, and that's going to be your multi-factor authentication. I do not recommend using, if you don't have to, like the text-based MFA, use a phishing resistant multi-factor authenticator, like a security key or something like that.
Right.
With SIM swapping and things like, it is very easy to intercept the code that is emailed or texted to you. If they're poking around at your stuff, they're probably sitting in your email. And if they get into your email, they'll sit there for months. They're not just going to act right away. They're going to collect reconnaissance and try and get deeper and maybe find bigger fish. So those 4 things I would recommend.
Nice. And one thing I'm going to add to this is that once you do that baseline that Ryan's talking about, do a security assessment. Go through and do a baseline assessment. Like, and then do like a risk assessment in a business impact analysis, kind of what's your critical systems, what are your critical process, what are your critical people, and then how do you tying security around them? Because what happens, as you and I know, it's that one process, that one system, that one individual that if they get compromised or that team gets compromised, completely impacts the business.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, and a lot of times when I was dealing instant response, they're like, well, we never knew. We weren't aware of that. We thought we could recover in X amount of time, and now it's been 3 weeks. We thought we'd be up in 3 hours. And it's like, you got to do your due diligence. You got to, think like threat actors, go through that process, document everything, get a strategy in place, have redundancy failovers, hot site, warm site, even a cold site where you can fail over to, like all these different things, especially on the business side. Now, when you're talking about personal, there's other things to do, but on the business side, they have to do that because that's going to impact brand reputation, financial revenue, income, and then the cost on both sides of losing revenue and the expense of a ransomware event or an outage. I mean, you can't take that impact for too long. And I know a lot of times when I do the business impact, you start talking about, okay, how are you guys in the first hour? How are you in the first day? How are you in the first week? And when you start going, well, week 3, 4, 4, and you kept going, they're like, whoa, we can't go to week 3. We can't do that. And I'm like, trust me, companies go to week 3 or week 4 if they're not prepared.
Right. Yeah. That's 8% of the year. You just lost 8% of your revenue, and then probably more actually, because it's compounded at that point. I mean, it gets bad quick. And I've seen it go from, this is weird, to, oh my God, nothing's working like this. And all of a sudden it gets expensive.
100%. Now, one thing I have a question for you, because I know you work with different industries. What would you say is the high risk sectors?
So healthcare has always been one. Critical infrastructure, obviously. The healthcare, I still haven't wrapped my head around that one. Sensitive data, I guess healthcare on certain individuals or health issues for certain individuals could be used with negative effect. But also we'll go to the industry that I'm most familiar with lately, and that's financial services. And that's simply because the risk is tied to capital and trust, not just the industry. So 55% of attacks, and I'm pulling this from that 2025 Verizon DBIR, great resource. So 55% of attacks, as per their data, are financially motivated. Mm-hmm. And 40% of incidents involve third parties. So that brings us back to what we were talking about before, where it's not just you directly, it's your vendors. So the reason why financial services is so high risk is due to their regulatory disclosure. Right. So they are exposed. And when I say RIAs, that's a registered investment advisor. So that's the independent wealth side. So a high net worth individual will say, hey, I've done well. I want to make sure my money is invested properly. And we have our taxes in order. So they bring it under an RIA and they handle all of that for them. So there's a huge amount of trust. You're trusting your legacy, your family's, expenses, and everything else is getting run through the RIA. But they're uniquely exposed due to the fact that they have to submit a form ADV, which effectively gives attackers a blueprint to do their due diligence and to generate that target package, right? So their assets under management, their operations, their structure, how many employees they have, and allows them to profile the firms and prioritize their targets. Another piece of information that is ancillary to that will kind of draw them to a specific firm are things like acquisitions and mergers, right? Mm-hmm. So if you put out a big press release because everybody wants to shout it from the mountaintops, hey, ABC RIA is partnering with 123 RIA, and they're going to be this powerhouse because they have 400 million AUM and they have 800 million AUM. So now they're over $1 billion. Right. Well, when you go through a transition, what usually happens? Roles are kind of confusing. Nobody knows who's who in the zoo yet. Who's got this for action? Who's got this for action? There's going to be a ton of back and forth. So there's going to be a lot of rapid fire emails. And if they can get in the middle of that process, they're going to overlook it. They're not going to open up that email to see if the domain matches. They're not going to, increase and zoom in to see, because the font can make an R and an N look like an M, which was that Microsoft phishing thing they had going on for a little bit. But it just creates all of these kind of gaps for these opportunistic actors to target, do their intelligence, and then exploit.
Well, I'm going to add on to that because I've heard and worked with companies that have done acquisitions. People, process, and technology are all changing. Parent companies coming into the smaller company, assessing the technology, decommissioning, moving systems up, redeploying, hardening on the fly, Well, while you're going through that transition, there's gaps. There's gaps in security. There's gaps in people, like you're talking about, positions, right? There's gaps in process. Who gets to report? We weren't watching the system at that time. I thought you guys had it monitored, but no, we weren't monitoring it.
There it is.
All those things are going on through an acquisition. So I totally agree. Yeah. My recommendation sometime is get your systems in play, get your processes in place. And then once you guys have a steady state and you're managing the environment, people, then do a press release that, hey, we're working together, everything's great. Because as you do that and you start to get hit, you're going to start to see your external environment take those hits, right? And the threat actor and go, now we see they're going after the child company, one we procured. They're trying to get in there, but that's all hardened because the parent company has visibility now. They have it under control. So,
and there you go. That's great advice. It's free advice. There you go. If you're going through a merger or an acquisition, wait until after you get your processes in order. It's no different than, you had these burglaries with high net worth homes last year, a lot targeting athletes, right? That was a big thing in the US. And what were they doing? They were waiting for them to either be on vacation or away at games, and they would go and hit the home. So the same thing I tell my clients: if you're going to go on vacation, that's great. Enjoy your vacation. Post your pictures after you get home. Don't let everybody know you're not home. And
don't do it on a regular schedule. Don't July go on vacation every single year, because they'll wait till year 2 or year 3.
That's a pattern.
They know you're going to go. You're away for 2 weeks. Guess what? I'm going to now raid your fridge, watch TV, have my feet up because you're gone for 2 weeks, right? I'm going to be right there. And then I know
guys love patterns.
Last day, I'm going to pack up and go, right? Bring up the truck.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the same. It's the same thing I did offensively. If I was, tasked to do a red team operation, I would do surveillance for days, weeks even, and we would just start seeing patterns. Okay, I got the pattern. Shift changes this time. Got it. Everybody goes out to smoke around this time. Got it. They prop that door open. That's a pattern. Okay. All right. Who's wearing their badges into the office? Great. And then you could even go a step further. I mean, hey, what bars do they go to after work for happy hour? Start chatting them up, and see what information you can get there, and then use that to plan your, infiltration. So you said high risk are financial, legal. I would say about healthcare. Healthcare, financial, critical infrastructure. Those would be, there's another one up there. I can't recall, but those would be the 3 that I'm really concerned with, that I really keep an eye on. Obviously government is high, but they're pretty bundled up. But yeah, critical infrastructure, energy too. Energy is a big one. Energy is a big one. So, and that also falls under critical infrastructure, but depending on where you fall in the hierarchy, if you're an energy company, but really, instead of looking for sectors, look at the benefit, right? So is it, a lot of them are monetarily motivated. And then there is the hacktivism side of the house, which just wants to create as much damage as humanly possible. They're not really financially driven. They may make their money and then decide to go ideologue on this side. So also religious groups are big ones too. If you're, a large religious group, or if you're a nonprofit or something like that, I think that's one that's been increasing. I don't have any data to support that, but based on what I have heard through conversations, I'm hearing it more and more. So I would guess that religious-based organizations, nonprofits, things of that nature are probably on the uptick as well. So one thing I want to add too is when I was at HP years and years ago, they had a security meeting and asked people to come out. They had videos, or it was the wolf. It was a YouTube video. You guys can do a search and look up the wolf. And they were showing, I
can't remember the actor's name offhand, but it was one of the famous actors. He was a hacker, and they went through different scenarios of how they compromised. And one was a hospital, and they compromised the IT person by changing his prescription. They hacked into the pharmacy, changed his prescription, put him out of commission. Now, they didn't hurt him or kill him, but he was tired. They put him to sleep. He ended up in the hospital and he was asleep. Well, then, they hacked the company. They're trying to get a hold of the IT guy who has, the keys to the kingdom, and he's out in the hospital bed. No one can get a hold of him. They don't know what to do. And I think that was in mid 2000s.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction, like how bad it could get. Whoa, like that, if that's true, and that medication is on that system, they could find out and do that because they did reconnaissance. What's that next step? Like, how bad can it get? And then what
about a defibrillator? That is a concern of mine. I know people who have those, and they do communicate. They have to carry around a second cell phone so it communicates with their cardiologist.
Right.
So that 100% could be attacked.
Yeah.
So if somebody think about
heart monitor, anything that they're on the respirator, all that is connected through the network.
Everything's connected, brother. And at any time you can really. I get it. In our line of work, people a lot of times like, you guys are just, until we're not, I've predicted quite a few things in my life, or I didn't predict, I should say more accurately. I've said, hey, you guys really should pay attention to this. And like, yeah, whatever. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, remember that thing you said? Yeah, it happened. And what should we do?
Right.
Okay.
And some of these things, I'm going to speak for myself and you can chime in. I don't want to be right. Like, I don't want to predict this and it actually happens. Right. I would rather be a movie that I watched and look, that's kind of cool. They can try to do that, but it's not possible. Where the sad part you and I know is a lot of times in the movies, like we're like, oh yeah, no, I dealt with that. Like that was an incident I had like 2 weeks ago. That's real. Like, I don't know if anyone's watched The Pit. They just did a scenario where they had a ransomware event and their hospital got compromised and they all went to, paper and pen and writing things on boards. And I'm like, I've worked in talking to my wife. Yeah, no, I've gone through that. Like I've had a company hospital that I worked with that was going through the same thing. They had a ransomware event. Like, and I was like, yep, that's totally true. What they're doing.
Well, they actually found it wasn't too long ago, within the last decade, they were getting those big like transformers, they have them imported and built. And what they found inside of them was communication chips. So they were able to communicate back to the country of origin. And I'll let you guess to the country of origin, but but think about it. That should not have been in there. And I mean, it's getting in the weeds now, but there are plenty of things, your charging banks, technology can be great, but it also can be a little terrifying. I mean, I have things that look like one thing, but they do something completely different. So, and those are in the wild, and that's not something that I sat here with capacitors and a soldering gun and made myself. And I bought those, and they can be bought. I didn't have a special person to buy it from. I just went online today. This is cool. And I bought it. So they're out there in the wild, and you have to. Now, most people probably don't have to worry about things that deep, but I mean, if you're in a sector where there's a lot of money and influence being kind of being exerted, then you should pay attention at least.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like
Faraday bags. Buy a Faraday bag. There's a tip.
Faraday bags. Buy your own chargers.
Yep. Oh God, yeah.
Right, because I've heard that about airports on their plugging. Oh, hey, can I borrow your? Oh yeah, sure. And they're like, my data got lost. I don't know what I did. It's like, okay, hold on. Did you borrow someone's charger? Yeah. Right.
Use a data blocker. That's another. It's $10 on Amazon, guys. Buy data blockers. It just removes the pins that transmit data. It just transmits electricity. So you plug your cord into the data blocker, and that goes into the source.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's all these different things to be aware of. Now, that being said, what's the future outlook? So what are you predicting over the next, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years?
The outlook, it's hard for me to say. what I have ran into in a lot of different firms is number one, it depends on the sector you're working in, the average age of the decision makers, right? So look at the average age of the C-suite personnel. This is not a knock on anybody. It is, there are just, my nephew is better with an iPad than I am. I am not an iPad guy. I don't run Mac systems. So if you give me an iPad, I'm going to hand it to my nephew and say, get me to this real quick, because he'll just boom, boom, boom. He's 5 years old.
Right.
So with each generation, I remember growing up without, there were computers, but we were still running like DOS, right, early on. So I remember the black screen with the green writing and the
VIC
very
20,
old
the
games.
Commodore 64s. I remember those.
So, you know, I grew up kind of learning this and then realizing, hey, I should probably get into this sector because it ain't going nowhere. So, well, like I said, the age of the people, the decision makers, has to be taken into account, because they might not have the understanding of what you're relaying to them, or they just might not care. I've seen that too. I don't care about that. We have cyber insurance. I hear that a lot. Right. A lot of companies say we have cyber insurance.
So deferring their risk, right?
Right. But how often do insurance companies lose?
Well, not even that. Here's something that people need to know, and I think you've dealt with this probably too. Tell me if you haven't. They deny the claim.
Yes, there you go.
Right, because you weren't secure enough. You didn't follow our policy and didn't do the right checks and balances having in place. Sorry, we deny your claim.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse, because they're gonna. That's why I mentioned the endpoint protection. If you always want to, my dad's another quip from my dad. Remove their excuses before they can make them. So you want to go above and beyond. So if they try and deny it, say, no, I have endpoint, I have a VPN, I have this, then they can't say anything.
Right.
You did the best you could. So what do I see? I see that I believe that the need for post-quantum encryption is going to happen sooner than people think. Everybody thinks it's a 10-year away problem. A very good friend of mine, Kevin Kane, who owns American Binary, they have I believe the world's only CNSA 2.0 certified, all 4 vectors certified post-quantum resilient VPN. And he thinks it's going to be much sooner. There are quantum computers in the wild now. I mean, you could probably plug it into chat and they'll spit it out. They're not, this isn't a fictitious thing. They're
$5,000 in China. I was looking one up a couple of years ago when they were talking about, because one of the things with the IR, I was like, okay, hold on, quantum computers, quantum this, quantum that. I'm like, okay, how, you have to go to, you book time at $10,000 an hour to get, okay. But what is it like in the wild right now? And then I started to see in China where they're talking about quantum computers, Now, I don't know how far and vast that technology is, but I'm like, okay, at least that step's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. And the harvesting of data, that's what that really terrifies me. Think about it. Every packet, every financial transaction, every health record, every text message, everything you could ever want private is being harvested and can be decrypted with a quantum computer in due time. So
passwords.
There you go.
Brute forcing the passwords. You can go to that site, how secure my password is, and they tell you, oh, it's 1 billion years, right? Because it's 25 character special code. But then you look at a quantum computer. Well, that now is like 15 minutes.
Right.
Like what just happened?
Right. Oracle just did an article or an expose on their cryptography. Right. And it is next level. And I know that in the early stages, everybody was kind of laughing at the attempt, and nobody's laughing now. I can tell you that. They put their heart and soul into it, and I watched them take it from the bottom all the way up to where it is now. And they sacrificed a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make that happen. And now, in my opinion, they're going to save a lot of people's information because it's already being tested.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else on the future outlook?
Really, I just believe that you're seeing an increase. I think AI, if I can remember the statistic, the use of AI to extract information from social engineering is up, I think, 2x year over year.
Okay.
You have business email compromise. That's a major attack vector.
Mhm.
I think that's going to go absolutely through the roof. It's going to be undistinguishable from the real thing. AI is just making it, they can make a vector logo, no problem. So I think we're going to see a stark increase over the next 6 to 12 months in social engineering through emails. And then going from there, I think the attacks are going to get more sophisticated, just due to the fact that I think most organizations are still kind of hanging on to those old technology based. They're relying totally on technology instead of holistic infrastructure, right?
Right.
So they're going, hey, we have X, Y, and Z, we're good. It's not that easy anymore, right? It's not about having more tools. It's about having a coordinated and integrated defense strategy. So the tools are one part of it. And I always say cybersecurity, or security in general, is simply, it's a service, it's a vehicle, but it's a vehicle to get you to risk mitigation. Right. So risk is the intersection of threats and vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities we can control if we can identify them first. So the first thing anybody needs to do, the baseline, is get a vulnerability assessment.
Right.
You need it, or else we don't know, we can't get you where you want to be until we know where you are. But the threats are increasing at such a fast pace now due to AI, and they had that Claude, the leak on that Claude code. And let me tell you something, that's powerful. And I don't know what's going to happen once that finally gets out and starts permeating through the black hat spaces. I mean, it should be in the shot in the dark at that. But I do believe that we're going to see an increase in these attacks and an increase in sophistication and tools that are tailor built to adapt in real time to remain undiscovered in the ecosystem that you're using or the operating system that you're using. I believe that's the next step, where you're going to have adaptive, worms and things of that nature. Not to get too technical, but you're going to have deliberate systems that will adapt on the fly to remain undetected and to go to get that payload that they're looking for.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm going to add to is, because I think for AI, there's two sides of it. There's the actual threat actor side, but there's also the corporate side where they're giving away data and information to tools like that, because innovation, automation, integration, efficiency, reducing costs and improving ROI. Yeah. That side of the business too, I think they're giving away too much without the due diligence side. Right. If you find a tool, and I want to be very clear, I'm not saying don't do AI. I know some people go, oh, well, you're against it. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying do it in a secure manner where you can control the access to your data, where everything's being stored. Right. And you've done your proof of concept, you've done your due diligence, and then start incorporating it. And I think that's both sides, like you said, and I totally agree on the threat actor side. Yeah. But I also think as the companies sometimes are rushing to be innovative too quickly when it comes to AI.
Oh, I've seen it. I sat in an AI summit last year, and everyone was talking about how it could improve everything, right? They're just going down the list. Oh, it can improve this and automate this, and we could have more hours for this and all. And I'm just sitting there quietly in the corner, and they're right. Everything they were saying was right, that you could automate these processes. And I waited till there was a break in the conversation. I raised my hand like a good little student, and I said, hey, this is all great, but is anybody thinking about the other side of the coin? Right. With every advantage, there's an exploitation. Right. So you can't look at just the good stuff. You have to then say, okay, this is all great, and then turn to somebody like you or me and go, all right, go ahead and ruin it for us. And then we sit there and go, all right, well, we're going to start poking holes in your stuff. And it comes from a place of I genuinely want, I love AI. I use AI all the time. I think it's great. I think it's like having a little super wizard in your pocket. You ask a random question, he's going to give you more information you could ever want to know about the mating habits of penguins, because that's what popped into your head. Right. But you have to respect it. And technology, I think, it's a double-edged sword, and everyone is just trying to get faster, smarter, quicker, one-click buys. But you're not considering all the connectivity it has. Even when I use AI, I don't give it access to my computer.
Right.
I use it on a browser. A lot of people will just connect it to everything. They're like, this is great. It's connected to everything. I'm like, oh, I don't recommend that.
Right.
Not now, not yet. It's too new. It's in its infancy. We don't know. We don't know as much about it as we should. We haven't done enough due diligence. There's not enough information out there.
Well, I think the one thing is you and I know is probably people are not reading the terms and service to say what access it has when they install it. We have access to your camera, your phone, your contacts. Like it goes through. We have access to the files on the phone, any daily transfer, email, like all the applications. We have access.
Yep.
But you're not reading that where it's. And then you and I know, oh, they get compromised and they go back to the company. They go, oh, sorry, it's part of the terms and service. We have access to everything.
Right.
What do you mean? I didn't know that.
Right. Or what about, think about it, even to take that a step further, ad tech data, right? Like I said, data is the most valuable currency on the planet, but you can find out where somebody is pretty close to the meter based on what information or locations are being leaked by apps on your phone.
Oh, 100%. Now, with that being said, any closing thoughts, takeaways?
Yeah, I have a few here that I wrote down. Number one, most breaches still involve a human element, right? That is an individual on one side. It's going to be AI generated potentially to make it look more, authentic, but they're attacking the humans. So the weak link is going to be the human. So take your time, take a deep breath. The next is AI is making attacks more convincing, not just more frequent. I just alluded to it, but it is making it harder to identify those from some second hand follow-up, right? Attackers, this is huge. Attackers are doing reconnaissance. They're not guessing anymore. It's not a blind shotgun pattern. They are using information to target you and to learn information about you so they can build that trust. At the same time, they're building that urgency to get you to click on that link or to give them access. And for the financial folks, your ADV gives the attackers a blueprint to profile firms. So that information that you release, whether it's press releases or through your firm ADV, you're giving them the blueprint to do the recon and to target you. So just be cognizant of that.
And I think, to your point, the human element, people need to do that security risk assessment and do it holistically, because you're totally right. Someone's tired, fatigued, they're not thinking, they're stressed, they're going from meeting to meeting, they're answering things quickly, they're going to make mistakes. Yeah. Right? I talked to so many people where they go after an incident, you go, okay, we're going to go through just a debriefing. Did you know? Yeah, I knew I wasn't supposed to click, and I knew I wasn't supposed to do that. And you're like, I get it. What happened? I was going from meeting. I had 5 minutes. I had to answer all the emails. I just saw I had like 17 just come in. I was trying to catch up quickly, and I did, and I answered that, and there was an incident, right? So you kind of, like you said, take a step back, take a breather. Even what I say is like block time that you just answer emails. All right, don't go to the meetings, don't do that. Just do that. Answer your emails at time, because then you're focused. Nothing's distraction. You're completely focused, and you have that block time. Because again, I know myself, and I'm all busy business people are all doing that. They're in a meeting, they're answering emails while getting texts, while listening to the meeting, while contributing, doing 3-4 things at the same time. And then they do one thing, and all of a sudden there's what just happened. Oh, damn it. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Right. But they know better, right? Most people now, because of cybersecurity risk training, people like you and I are constantly going into companies and training them. They're going through know before and all that proof point training constantly. It's front and center. I find now in the stage, they're just overwhelmed. They're doing too much.
Yes. That's 100% it. And if you look at the latest breach data, the common theme isn't the technology failure. It's how effectively the attackers are targeting the people and relationships.
100%. Totally agree with that. Awesome. So I'm going to put up here, if anyone wants to connect with Ryan, I got his LinkedIn profile. Take a screenshot, because I know there's some numbers and letters, numbers, and all that. So take that if you guys want to reach out to him. Next, Sparrow Risk Group, connect to his organization company, www.sparrowrg.com. Reach out to Ryan. I know Ryan's a wealth of information. You guys have any questions? Ryan, thank you so much. This was amazing. I learned a lot from our conversation.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So as you guys know, that was a great conversation. I mean, I hope you guys got a lot of takeaways. I mean, talking to Ryan and just what's going on in the industry, his experience and knowledge and everything he's doing in the industry right now, from his past to his current to his future. I want you guys to take that away, because what the threats and concerns he has are valid. It's what him and myself deal with day in and day out. And our goal is to make sure that you guys are secure, you guys are safe, and you're doing the right things. All right. And if you guys have any questions and you want to follow up, reach out to either of us and say, okay, hey, I saw you mentioned this on your stream, your podcast. I want to go deeper. I want to learn more. So reach out to Ryan. He's a wealth of information. He has a great team, understanding from what he's doing with the industry right now. I highly recommend you guys reach out. So thank you so much for connecting from Daily Cyber. Don't remember, software's hackle, being connected is vulnerable. I'll see you next Daily Cyber.